It all started with a dare. My friends, Samir and Priya, pointed to the old Haveli at the end of the street. It was huge and crumbling. Its windows were like dark, empty eyes staring out at the world. People in Chandigarh whispered stories about it. They said a family had vanished from there a long time ago. They said you could still hear their sad cries on quiet nights. Samir dared me to go inside. He said I was too scared. A shiver went down my spine, a cold, wiggly worm of fear. But I couldn't let him think I was a chicken. So I said yes. The rusty gate groaned as I pushed it open. The sound was like a monster waking up from a long sleep. The garden was a wild jungle of dead weeds and thorny bushes that grabbed at my jeans. I took a deep breath. The air smelled like damp earth and old, forgotten things. My heart was thumping against my ribs like a tiny drummer trapped inside my chest. I looked back, but my friends were just small shapes in the distance. I was all alone now. I had to do this. I had to prove I was brave. I crept towards the massive wooden door, which was slightly ajar. I pushed the heavy door. It made a long, low creak that echoed through the silent house. Creak! Goosebumps popped up all over my arms. The inside was even darker than I expected. Thick dust covered everything, sparkling in the thin beams of light that pushed through the grimy windows. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling like ghostly decorations at a party nobody was invited to. My footsteps were loud on the dusty marble floor. Tap, tap, tap. Each step felt like I was waking something up, something that had been sleeping for a very, very long time. My name is Rohan, by the way, and I was starting to think this was the dumbest thing I had ever done. Why did I listen to Samir? I wanted to turn around and run, just run back to my friends and the bright, safe street. But my feet felt stuck, as if the house itself was holding me there. The silence was the worst part. It was a heavy, waiting silence. It felt like the house was listening to me, watching my every move. I swallowed hard, the sound loud in my own ears. I took another step into the darkness, deeper into the chilling tale of the haunted Haveli. I found myself in a huge hall. A grand staircase with a carved wooden railing curved up into the shadows of the next floor. Portraits on the wall were covered in so much dust, I couldn't see the faces. They were just dark shapes, like faceless ghosts watching me. A cold draft slithered around my ankles, making me jump. Where was it coming from? All the windows were shut tight. It felt like an icy breath on my skin. I pulled my t-shirt tighter around me, but the chill wouldn't go away. It felt like it was coming from inside the walls. Suddenly, I heard a noise from upstairs. Thump. My whole body froze. It sounded like something heavy had dropped. Was someone else here? Hello? I called out, my voice shaking. It came out as a weak whisper. The only answer was the echo of my own voice, bouncing back at me from the empty rooms. Hello? 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 The silence that followed was even scarier. My imagination started running wild. Maybe it was a rat. A big rat. Or maybe it was something else. Something that didn't want me in its house. I decided I had to see what made the noise. I know it sounds crazy, but I had to know. My curiosity was like a little flame fighting against the big cold wave of my fear. I placed my foot on the first step of the staircase. It let out a loud, long groan. Groan! I froze again, listening. Nothing. I took another step, and another, each one complaining with a creak or a moan. It was like the house was trying to warn me, telling me to go back. The higher I climbed, the colder the air became. When I reached the top of the stairs, I was in a long, dark hallway. Doors lined both sides, all of them closed. The air up here was thick and heavy, and it smelled sweet but rotten, like old flowers. The thumping sound hadn't come again, but I felt like I wasn't alone. It was a creepy feeling, like eyes were watching me from the shadows behind the closed doors. I had to choose a door. Any door. My hand was trembling as I reached for the nearest doorknob. It was cold and brassy, and felt like it hadn't been touched in 100 years. I turned the knob and pushed the door open. It swung inward with a soft swoosh, revealing a child's bedroom. Everything was covered in a thick blanket of gray dust. There was a small bed in the corner, a wooden rocking horse, and a toy box with its lid half open. It looked like the child who lived here had just gotten up and walked away, planning to come right back. But they never did. The room was filled with a deep sadness. It felt like the walls themselves were crying. I took a step inside, and the air grew so cold that I could see my own breath. That's when I heard it. It wasn't a thump this time. It was a soft, quiet sound, a weeping sound, sniffle, sob. It was coming from the corner of the room, near the little bed. My heart hammered against my chest. I wanted to scream, but my throat was tight with fear. I slowly turned my head, my eyes wide. There, sitting on the edge of the bed, was a little girl. She was almost transparent, like she was made of smoke or mist. I could see the wall right through her. She wore an old-fashioned dress and her face was buried in her hands. She was a ghost. I was so scared I couldn't move. My feet were glued to the floor. The ghost girl didn't seem to notice me. She just kept crying, her small see-through shoulders shaking with sobs. Her crying was the saddest sound I had ever heard. It was filled with so much pain and loneliness. For a second, I forgot to be scared. I just felt sorry for her. Why was she so sad? What had happened to her in this house? The whispers I'd heard on the street came back to me. The family that vanished. Was she part of that family? As I stood there, watching her, my eyes fell on the toy box. Something was sticking out from under its lid. It was a small, leather-bound diary. The ghost girl lifted her head for a moment, and her tear-streaked face looked towards the toy box. Her expression was full of longing. That's when I understood. The secret wasn't the ghost. The secret was why she was a ghost. She was trapped here by her sadness, and I had a feeling that the diary held the key. I knew what I had to do. I had to get that diary. My fear was still there, a giant monster sitting on my chest, but I had a mission now. I had to help her. I took a slow, careful step towards the toy box. The floorboards creaked under my weight, and the ghost girl looked up, her misty eyes finally fixing on me. Her eyes were wide with surprise, not anger. I froze, expecting her to scream or float towards me, but she just watched me, her silent tears still rolling down her translucent cheeks. I pointed a shaky finger at the diary, and then at her. I was trying to ask if she wanted it. She gave a tiny, almost invisible nod. That was all the encouragement I needed. I tiptoed past her, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm. My hand trembled as I reached into the toy box and pulled out the small diary. It was cold to the touch. As soon as my fingers closed around it, the ghost girl's crying stopped. A faint, watery smile appeared on her face. She raised a misty hand and waved a tiny goodbye. Then she began to fade. She became more and more transparent, like a cloud of smoke dissolving into the air, until she was completely gone. The room instantly felt warmer. The heavy sadness lifted. I didn't wait another second. I clutched the diary to my chest and turned and ran. I flew out of the bedroom, down the long hallway, and leaped down the grand staircase 3 steps at a time. I didn't care about the creaks and groans anymore. I burst through the front door and out into the overgrown garden. The late afternoon sun had never felt so warm or looked so bright. The world felt real and solid again. I didn't stop running until I crashed through the rusty gate and was back on the familiar, safe street. Samir and Priya rushed over, their eyes wide. "What happened? You were in there forever!" Samir exclaimed. I couldn't speak at first. I was too busy catching my breath. I just held up the old diary. I had survived the haunted Haveli. I wasn't just Rohan who took a dare anymore. I was Rohan who had met a ghost and helped her find peace. I still felt the fear, but underneath it, a new feeling was growing. It was bravery. I had faced the chilling tale of the Haveli and come out with its secret. And I knew I would never ever forget the sad ghost girl in the weeping room.